In 2014 to 2015, the Department of Education and Training commissioned Monash University to facilitate a series of reciprocal visits and professional learning sessions to strengthen transition to school processes for children and families. The aim was to build on and enhance existing relationships between early childhood educators and primary school teachers.
So the setting at Puckapunyal is quite unique in terms of being a government school. We're on a military army base, so the large percentage of our students are Defence Force students, so we have a high transition rate of students moving in and out of the setting here, and that applies to the prior to school settings of there's a 4-year-old kinder and a Mission Australia daycare centre. So the Mission Australia Centre has a 0 to 5 group of students that they work with, and then the 4-year-old kinder, there's also a 3-year-old kinder that is on 2 days a week. Physically, all that separates us is a road, but in the past the road has really represented some huge barriers for us in terms of transition. So with that setting around where we're at here, we move our students through the settings generally. Sometimes it can be every 12 months. We have about an 80% turnover over a 3-year time span. So getting to know the kids and building relationships with their families is critical for what we do in terms of education at our location. At a school level, we've often talked about we've only got the students for a very short amount of time, so you really need to get in and make an impact really quickly. And certainly through the transition program that we had in place here, it looked at the notion that although the students that we work with in terms of a transition program may not actually transition from a prior to school setting to our school setting, it was important that they be part of that, because the learning that they and their families get from that, they can take to different settings, whether they be in Victoria, nationally or internationally for some of our students. Our transition program up until 2014 focused on movement of students from prior to school settings to the school setting. And then in 2014 we formed a transition team where we had representatives from the 3 locations, the school, the kindergarten and Mission Australia. So we came together once a term and we sort of called ourselves the transition team that created a calendar, different events and opportunities for kids to move into different settings and work together. So what this particular project has done for us is given us the opportunity to take transition from movement of students to movement of educators and movement of pedagogy around that.
I think we've all sort of learned how important it is to work together and to get to know the different settings. So for us to get to know what the school do and why they do it and the purpose, and for them to come over, and that's very important for them to understand the way we do things, the framework, play-based learning, because beforehand they didn't. They're not just playing. So
I think that they've gained a great understanding of what we do now. We aren't just carers. Yeah.
And I think more so for they've probably learned a bit more here than what we've learnt there, because for them to get around play-based, they've heard about it but not necessarily seen it in practice, that Mercy's come in or Sal's come in and popped in and said hello and that's about it, where they've actually come and they've been on the floor and they've spent time, and we've been able to have that time to explain to them and show them things, our documentation and why we do it in our programming, and I think that's very important, and that we keep that going too. Yes. So over the years that we do visit each other's spaces, it's very important.
I found that the focusing better on the way we transition our children internally to the centre is just as important as transitioning from kinder to primary school.
Concept of our first session with those 12-month-olds
they were
through to the sessions with 8-9 years. I think that's really been good to get that concept. Of course you know that journey happens, but we've physically seen it. From your room to the next room, to the kinder, to the foundation room, to the 1, 2, 3 and then 3, 4 this year. It's been really valuable.
I would say to kids, ones potentially I might get next year, so it's good for them to get to know me.
Educators can get together and do the planning and do the teaching, but we don't necessarily have the skills to carefully guide that debriefing session. And I think it can be really easy to get caught up in terms of judgment as opposed to observations, and that's the key. You can't go down the judgment track because it actually serves no purpose.
I think it's really good. That way each side are clear on what the outcome is, because we're both looking to get the same outcome, but if we work together we're more likely to achieve it than if we try and work separately or that. So I think if we work together to get the same outcome, we have a much better chance of achieving it.
I would say to be open to different people's learning, and as in walk in and be open to what you're going to hear and what they're going to talk about, rather than you've got a fair idea of what they're going to do. But yeah, and just be open-minded, and let the person's in that setting tell you what they learn and things like that.
Just to go in there open-minded. Not with any expectations. Because it's just what you do and your beliefs aren't what everyone else's beliefs and practices and principles are. And just take it all in. Yeah, I appreciate it. Because it's an opportunity that not everyone will get.
Do it. And I'd say do it, start early, rather than what we did.
It's positive. Do it.
Yeah.
It's only going to enrich your role as an educator.
Take a quick audit of relationships. Where are you at with that? And if you think if your audit tells you that your relationships are respectful, just go with it. But at the same time, certainly I had no concept that as individual educators we were ready to accept that notion of each other in other spaces. At a school level we do, from classroom to classroom, but I had no concept that we were so ready to cross the road like we have.
After visiting each other's classrooms, teaching together and participating in the shared learning sessions, the Puckapunyal team developed a series of local principles for transition to support their continued work together. The first principle emphasised establishing relationships. It was clear that strong professional relationships underpinned the teachers' work together. It was also considered important the teachers share their knowledge of the children and families to ensure continuity of support and to develop a shared responsibility for the care and education of the children. Through planning and implementing teaching together across settings, there are opportunities to develop an appreciation of the different teaching practices and to work towards building a common approach to early years pedagogy. The teachers recognised that while they were often talking about the same things, they were using different terms. To support a shared understanding of practice, there also needs to be a common language so that the practices and processes that support children's learning are clearly understood. Finally, to build a coherent set of teaching practices that support children's learning and transition to school, there also needs to be continued opportunities for shared learning. The reciprocal visits should continue, including teaching together, with staff also participating in the professional development sessions that occur at each site.